When a situation is so bad, sometimes you just have to step back and laugh at it all. We live in a society, am I right? So it's not news to anyone that the latest consoles are incredibly hard to grab a hold of. Any version of the PS5 or any version of the Xbox 6 are nowhere to be found. The other week I covered how the UK government had to step in to try to make these scalping bots illegal that bypassed lines and spammed requests to the retailers' servers. I, like many other people, have been insanely frustrated with trying to get a hold of these next-gen consoles. Me being in Canada, and I believe it's the same in the UK, there is no in-store purchases for these consoles, and that's due to COVID. They're trying to severely limit the number of in-store shopping. Shoppers have been insanely frustrated with these online queues that say you have the console in your cart only to be kicked out 20 minutes later, while some PR nonsense is on screen saying, "Don't worry, your console is secure. Grab a coffee, relax, wait in line," just to have it pulled from your hands and spit in your face. COVID has also made a global processor shortage from AMD, which these new consoles use AMD processors, meaning that there's just not enough parts to manufacture these systems to keep up with demand. So scalpers keep winning. There are some insane stories I've been reading about the consequences of everything. It's the perfect ingredients to make a complete shit show. And that's why sometimes you just gotta detach yourself from it all and laugh, because not only does COVID restrict the supply chain, but it also ups the demand chain because everyone's at home, and these home entertainment systems is how people are passing the time. Random side note, but a year ago now, which is gross to say, there was a Nintendo Switch shortage for the same reason, if you don't remember that. Manufacturers couldn't get the parts, so they weren't being made, where scalpers were using bots to bypass systems to get as much product as possible. So my friend a year ago managed to sell a Nintendo Switch for over $600 just because people wanted it that bad because they were bored during quarantine. And with resellers auctioning off these stocks, John Carmack actually proposed that Sony and Microsoft auction off these consoles to buyers. I don't think anyone would be okay with that. But this format really is being humored by people. There is some worthwhile discussion there, because if people can't do anything about it, like the UK government had to step in and verify each individual purchase in order to make sure that only one person got it. And they had to intervene in the whole commercial process just because it was getting that bad. That's why lobbying to pass this new bill has taken in place to ban these scalping bots. Firstly, on the whole auctioning thing, well, buyer's market, I think that it would be super negatively received. And how do you circumvent the one buyer per console thing when it's just the richest person can just throw down as much money to get these consoles? Like, I don't see how the issue would be solved here. And I think the work needed to build an auctioning system like that could be better used to implement a system that actually gets the consoles to worthwhile buyers and not to scalpers. And there are some crazy stories out there outside of the UK too. Like in India, official PS5 and Xbox Series sellers are also putting a markup on them to gain money and telling customers to lie to Sony or Microsoft on how much they spent to buy those consoles. The business is lucrative. I even know someone that works at a big commercial retailer that was able to hook up people with Series X's and PS5s and could charge for the service, but got them their console and people happily bought it. Obviously, I'm not gonna say who or what, but it's a real thing. There is so much scarcity that every which way you look at it, there's someone in the middle trying to grab a hold of that console before you. The whole reseller thing is especially funny in the case of Sony, where they stated where they're selling their consoles at a loss, which is actually pretty common practice in the industry. But that means that 100% resellers are making more profit than Sony themselves. There's still no news about the law stepping in the Western market, but lawyer intervention in the West as it relates to the console industry is seen not in the consoles, but in the controllers. I'm sure many of you have heard about this by now, especially when it comes to the Nintendo Switch. Definitely experienced it myself. The thing about Joycon drift, well, the PS5 controllers and the Xbox One and Series controllers also experience drift, and these major gaming companies and hardware manufacturers failing to tell customers about this known obsolescence is causing law firms of technical malfunctions to step in and sue Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft for failing to notify the customers about this known issue. How do they believe it's known? Well, the folks over at iFixit was able to identify the manufacturer manufacturers of the analog stick components, which is from Alps. Manufacturer of the joystick parts reveals the expected operation life of the stick's potentiometers. Potentiometers is just like a variable resistor to read the values. If you ever mapped an analog stick in an emulator and you see how it reads the values, it's done through potentiometers. It's basically like a dial. So they have it rated at 2 million cycles, while the center push function with the stick clicked in around 500,000 cycles. The fact that it is a rated component and it is so deeply embedded within the controllers without a plan of replacement is actually pretty insane. And kudos to the people at iFixit for able to identify the actual component used in all these controllers. It is especially bad with things like the Xbox Elite controllers that are over $200 and also can experience drift after a few hundred hours of use. Now, is this planned obsolescence? Who knows? They want you to just fork over money to buy a new controller. My Joy-Con is drifting a lot. I have an extra analog stick, so it's definitely possible. The joystick replacement kits aren't too expensive, but it's the time. And if this is really an issue this much, I'm going to actually go out and buy electronic specific power tools just to get into these consoles and controllers. It's especially hilarious when Nintendo denied this, only later to confirm it. Both Furukawa and Doug Bowser came out to talk about Joy-Con drift, just saying that they're in the middle of the legal stuff, so they can't really talk about it. Still not really confirming anything, just using fancy lingo like, oh, we're just paying attention to the cycles of returns. Yeah, well, when the root cause of 99 of those defects is just controller drift, then It's like saying something doesn't kill bacteria because it kills 99.9% of bacteria. Well, it didn't kill all of it, so it doesn't kill bacteria. Doug Bowser saying, what I will say, we looked at our repair cycles. We're always looking at what is being sent in and for what reasons. And without going into any details, it always gives us an opportunity to make improvements as we go forward. Expert PR dodging and weaving there. Microsoft's case is hilarious because they requested to handle this settlement with the law firm outside of the courtroom, in which that request was denied and would see to be resolved within the courtroom. It's like literally those companies that are like, no, don't worry, just DM me, it'll be fine. We'll resolve this. Just like a knee-jerk reaction to get whatever is happening out of the public eye in a desperate attempt of damage control. I just think it's so crazy why this is such an issue now. In my lifetime of gaming, I've had many controllers drift on me, but normally a simple unplug and replug resolve that issue. Now with everything being on battery, that's literally not an option. Maybe with the Xbox controller, whenever the hell that starts drifting, which I hope doesn't happen, I'll take out and reinsert the AA battery and see how that works. PS5 controllers, nah, you ain't getting to that battery unless you break your warranty. But if you use that controller in under 500 hours in a year, then maybe you won't have manufacturing warranty anyways. Well, these are expensive equipment. No one wants to keep buying this over and over again or learning how to go in and tinker with this. And it's just one of those things where it's weird how it's seen in abundance now, but it's even worse when these companies are just denying it or trying to do damage control and dodging as much as possible without just straight up saying, yes, we are aware of the technical lifetime usage of the components used in our controllers. I guess gaming is just like healthcare. It's the best it's ever been in history, but if you have money. The Nintendo Switch has still been able to chug along and has even become more of a powerhouse. It's seriously en route to being the top 3 best-selling consoles of all time. But Nintendo aren't always the top of the food chain, as reportedly in the UK, the Xbox Series X and S actually outsold Nintendo. But there's literally no way of saying that this data is useful because every single Xbox produced is going to be copped by a reseller or be bought by the first person that's constantly refreshing the same page over and over again until they got lucky enough to actually secure one, which is exactly how I got my Xbox Series X. But Nintendo keeps reaping the rewards, and with the Switch Pro or the next version of the Switch, rumors being all-time high, it's expected that Nintendo's going to double down. But I don't know how valid these rumors are for the next version of the Switch. I honestly didn't look into it enough. And the Switch uses a specially produced NVIDIA SoC or processing unit, so it isn't affected by AMD's shortage, but I'm pretty sure that it's a general microprocessor shortage globally. It's not just with AMD. So even if a Switch Pro were to be announced and released now, it would see many of the same same commercial issues that the other next-gen consoles are seeing. But in other news with Nintendo printing money with the Switch, I made 2 videos about Skyward Sword and Nintendo's anti-consumerism. But Skyward Sword HD just in pre-orders already outsold Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury. But I guess the majority of the pre-orders for Bowser's Fury was at the end of 2020. But still, goddamn, that is an insane fact. And to tie all the stories together, at the peak of shortages, scalping, Nintendo's anti-consumerism, and just the general state of the global market right now, the Skyward Sword Joy-Cons are already being sold at a higher value than MSRP. I can't even find an official seller that sells these Joy-Cons in Canada yet, and they're already being resold from Japanese sellers at a higher price. Bro. Oh my gosh, and I didn't even look up any insane metrics when it comes to the RTX 380. I know that also seen crazy limited and shortage, and other random haha that's dumb news with the next gen consoles. A Toronto-based company named dbrand are selling black faceplates for the PS5 with their brand name basically being, "Go ahead Sony, try to sue us." They have it plastered everywhere on their sites, and the reason why they're very confident and snarky about Sony trying to sue them is because Sony took down another company that was selling faceplates for their systems. Sony shut down and discontinued a company called PlayStation 5, which would sell faceplates for the PlayStation 5. Maybe they took down their company because their name is so close to their trademark product. But either way, dbrand, to circumvent any chance of a lawsuit, says that if you look at a microscope at their actual plating, it doesn't actually infringe on any IP. If you look here, these are the mimic shapes, the trademark triangle, square, X, and circle, which I didn't know you could trademark shapes. dbrand is wholly confident they are not infringing on any IP, and basically having their marketing strategy being, haha Sony, you can't sue us, nya, 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 nya. And I'm here for it. Yeah, take that for censoring anime titties, Sony, haha. Wow, that was a lot of random ass stories, and this is going on for too long. Let me know how your experience with the latest console generation has been. The war on resellers, the resellers are definitely winning, but the war isn't over. I can't see this ending anytime soon. We're at least going to be in it for another year. That'll be it for today's dodump. Y'all just got dumped on. Bye-bye.